Aloha. I am Dr. Keone Dudley, and I want to welcome you to segment 2 of the new hurricane threat for Hawaii. This segment will teach you how the spawning area for hurricanes over by Mexico has moved farther north and how that has caused hurricanes that used to cross the Pacific far below us to now be headed directly at us.
My name is John Bravender. I'm the warning and coordination meteorologist at the National Weather Service Central Pacific Hurricane Center. We're located in Honolulu on the University of Hawaii's Manoa campus. This solid black line is 140 degrees west longitude, and this is the cutoff between the East Pacific and the Central Pacific. For any tropical cyclones east of 140, the National Hurricane Center in Miami is responsible for all forecasts and warnings. Between 140 West and International Dateline, my office, the Central Pacific Hurricane Center, is responsible. A quick note about terminology. I'll try to use tropical cyclones as a generic term that includes all intensities: depression, named storm, hurricane. Each is defined by how strong the winds are, and tropical cyclone covers all of them. We'll take a look at tropical cyclone threats to Hawaii. First, let's get an idea of where tropical cyclones have been located in the past. For reference, here we are outlined in the black oval. You can see portions of the mainland on the right side of the screen showing this image covers a large chunk of the East Pacific, east of the dateline. Now, there's a lot of lines on this map. Each one is a tropical cyclone track that occurred between 1970 and 2016. They're color-coded by the strength of their wind speed, with green being tropical depressions with winds less than 39 miles an hour, yellow being tropical storms with winds 39 to 73 miles an hour, red, hurricanes with winds 74 miles an hour or greater, and purple, major hurricanes with winds 110 miles an hour or greater. Now, a couple of things to notice. There's a lot more activity in the East Pacific than in the Central Pacific. Waters are a lot warmer, and there's a lot more low-level spin in the far East Pacific, which are two of the ingredients needed for tropical cyclones to form. Second, in the Central Pacific, most of the activity is located either east of Hawaii or south of us. There's typically a lot of wind shear near the state, which is changing wind with height, northeast trades at the surface, and southwest winds high in the atmosphere. There's also usually cooler water and drier mid-level air near us, all of which cause tropical cyclones to weaken. Waters are warmer, and there's less wind shear south of us, which is where you see the tracks moving east to west. Now, sometimes the weather pattern of the day causes a hurricane to recurve, like it did with the Niki in 1992. But it looks like most of the activity stays south, right? Next, let's see how that's been changing. The study referenced here looked at 3 decades of tropical cyclone tracks, from 1982 to 2012. As the ocean got warmer, they found that the track shifted towards the poles, north in the northern hemisphere. It makes sense, right? Hurricanes get their energy from warm water, and a warmer ocean means they can maintain their strength farther north. Unfortunately, that puts Hawaii increasingly in the crosshairs of those east-west moving hurricanes, not needing ingredients to come together to cause them to recurve northward. Looking into the future, this study was based on computer modeling through the end of the century. In their simulations, they found less wind shear and more moisture near Hawaii, two of the ingredients that have traditionally caused tropical cyclones to weaken near us. Also, they found the development area in the East Pacific shifted northward, which would also cause more of those west-moving tropical cyclones to approach us. What I want you to take away from this is that we don't have to wait until the end of the century before we start worrying about hurricanes. They're a threat now. So far, we've been lucky. Eventually, that luck will run out. So take the preparedness information we'll talk about here to heart. Remember, it's not a question of if, but of when. Thank you.
That was John Bravender, the warning coordination meteorologist at the Central Pacific Hurricane Center. So, with warming seas, the hurricane spawning area over by Mexico is moving farther north. And now hurricanes crossing the Pacific that used to travel a few hundred miles below Hawaii will be coming directly at us. And the cooler seas around us that used to slow them down are now warming around Hawaii too. John also described wind shear, which traditionally has torn hurricanes apart before they reach us. He talked about the trade winds at a lower level and the higher Kona winds going in the opposite direction. Together, they shear the hurricane winds as they approach. What he didn't mention is that we are losing those lower trade winds. Every year, we are losing 2 days of trade winds, the winds coming down from the northeast. In 1970, we had trade winds on about 300 days a year. Now we have trade winds less than 200 days a year. That's a loss of 100 days of trade winds in 50 years. In 5 more years, we will have trade winds on less than half the days of the year. If a hurricane approaches on the days we have no trade winds blowing, there will be no two-way winds to shear it apart. It can make a direct hit. In 2020, the eye of Hurricane Douglas passed just north of Oahu on a path that used to be impossible because of wind shear. How did it get through? It came on a day with no trade winds. It's only a matter of time before the first direct hit. In closing, I want to thank the Makakilo Kapolei Honokai Hale Neighborhood Board for bringing together the experts that we have heard today. I want to thank Olelo Community Media for helping us to reshoot the entire program. I want to thank Kareen Makahilahila for her marvelous job in editing this with me. I want to thank the nonprofit 2050 Hawaii Incorporated for sponsoring the program. And I want to thank Tesla Solar for funding its creation. Finally, I dedicate this program to my wife, Doris Sadako Dudley. You may want to see this program again. It can be found on the Olelo website and on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching. Aloha.